Now, very good morning to all my dear students. I welcome you all into the industrial pharmacy first. Dear student, we are on to the tablet, and while studying this tablet, we saw that what the tablets are. We had defined the tablet, what are the different types of tablets, how the tablet these are going to be classified, what are the different processes involved in case of manufacturing of the tablet, that it will involve the mixing, granulation and the compression. We saw in detail the process of the granulation. We saw in detail the process of mixing. We saw in detail the advantages, disadvantages. We saw in detail the ideal requirement for the tablet dosage form. We had also gone through the different stages, the different types of the machineries, that is the single station machinery, multiple station machinery, isn't it? So multiple station machinery, these are the rotary presses, so which are having the capacity to give output of say 50,000 to 1 lakh tablets per per hour, based on the requirement, based on the number of stations. Now what these stations are, the stations are nothing but the number of pair of punches and the dies, so that will determine the stations, and based on these number of stations, more will be the number of station, more will be the output of the tablet production. Now, while studying this process of compression, we saw that the process of compression, it is a systematic and the series of operative processes. So first of all, what will happen? The feeder that will provide the granules to that of the feeding shoe, the feeding shoe that will plays an important role in the process of filling of the dies. So dies, these are nothing but the cavities. Dies, these are nothing but the spaces which are responsible for determining the uh, weight of the tablet, the shape of the tablet, the size of the tablet. Right now, once the tablet these will get filled, then that will lead to the process of compression. So the compression, that is the series of sequence of steps in which there is a movement of the punches, upper punches and the lower punches. That will upper punch, that will comes down, it will enters into the die cavity and it will compress the die mass, that is the granules. So between the upper and the lower punches, there is a compression. So that will be subjected to that of the two different rollers, which will produce compression force onto that of the content of the die cavity. So that will causes compressing, that will causes reduction in the size of the granules, granular mass or the powdered mass, which is held into the die cavity, and that will gives rise to a specific, to a particular shape that is said to be the tablet. Now this tablet that will lead to the process of ejection. So as far as the process of ejection are concerned, how the process of ejection will occur? In order to occur the process of rejection, the tablet, the lower punch, the upper punch, they will move into the upward direction. So the upper punch that will get lifted up, the lower punch that will pushes up the tablet into the upward direction till it will come onto the surface of the die. So when it will come onto the surface of the die, it will get, or the tablet will get removed with the help of a scraper, right? Now then again the lower punch that will move down, it will create the cavity in order to accept the fresh granules and further to go on repeating these cycles. So this process of creating the die cavity, filling the die, then movement of the upper and lower punches, and then to form the tablet, and then to move the lower punch into the upward direction, upper punch into the upward direction until it will reaches to that of the die surface, and then the tablet that will get removed. So these processes that will goes on repetition. These processes they will go on continuous rotation basis. So that will lead to the cycles of the tablet production. right? So all these are the processes that we had saw the animated video related with this. We actually saw how the process that are going to be occurring in case of industry as far as the automated machineries are concerned. In this particularly, the role will come of the process of automated machineries. So automated machineries, these are the automated die punching machines which had all the preset parameters, and slight alteration or slight changes or slight modification into these, that will leads to the process of rejection of the tablet. So at the end of the automated machinery video, we saw that whenever the required dimensions are not achieved, instead of moving the tablet into the correct tablet path, it will get moved, it will get removed by the rejected way, right? So all these are the processes that will happen in case of the process of tablet compression. Now let us move to the compression and consolidation in tablet manufacturing, that how this process will occur. The tablet manufacturing or the tablet compaction, it will consist of the two different steps. Now what these two different steps are? Step 1, step 2. The step 1 that will involve the process of compression. Now compression, that is nothing but the reduction into the volume, reduction into the volume of the granule, reduction into the volume of the material hold into the die capacity. And the step 2, that is the consolidation. So consolidation, that is nothing the process of forming the shape of the tablet. Now this process of compaction, that will occur through the four different phases. It will passes through the four different phases. These phases are phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 and phase 4. So what the phase 1 is? Phase 1, that will consist of the reduction into the volume. So volume reduction, that will followed by the rearrangement, and that will lead to the closer packing of the granules. The phase 2, that will followed by the phase 1, that is the after closing packaging. After a certain point, rearrangement does not occur. The rearrangement, that will not occur. They will remain there only. Even though if we go on increasing the pressure onto the granular mass, right? So the volume reduction, that is as a result of increase into the pressure between the upper and the lower bunches. As a result of which, they will come closer. The rearrangement of the particles, that will occur. They will change their size. They will change their shapes in order to get the closer packaging. Now beyond certain point, this will not occur. After a certain point, the rearrangement does not occur. Further reduction beyond this point in compact volume, that will lead to the elastic reversible deformation. So here it is said that the reversible deformation or the elastic deformation. What does it mean? If we go on reducing the pressure at this particular point, the particles, they will regain their shape. So that's why it is said to be the reversible and the elastic deformation. Now the third step, that is the phase 3, it will followed by the phase 2. Now this stage, it will consist of the plastic deformation of the particles. Now this plastic deformation, that is associated with the irreversible changes. That means the pressure had been increased from phase 2 to phase 3. Now here if we go on releasing the pressure, the particles, they cannot regain their size, right? So that's why it is plastic and that's why it is irreversible. The changes cannot be reverted back. That is the phase 3, that is the plastic and the irreversible. And phase 4, that will consist of the fragmentation. So that will lead to the formation of the bonds between the particles, so that it will hold the material with each other. It will create the cohesive forces, and thus it will lead to the process of the compaction. So what the compaction is, it will passes through the four different phases. What are these four different phases? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Phase 1, that is the volume reduction, which will lead to the closer packaging. Phase 2, that is the elastic reversible deformation stage. Phase 3, that is the plastic irreversible deformation stage. And phase 4, that is the fragmentation stage, which will subject to that of the formation of the interparticulate bonds. Now this is the graphical representation as the time that will goes on, and if we move on the, if we go on increasing the pressure, how the process that will get changes. So here there is a bulk power which will lead to that of the reversible changes, that is the elastic deformation. Then there are irreversible changes, that is the plastic deformation. Then it will lead to that of the fragmentation and formation of the bond that will give rise to the particular shape of the tablet. So the process of compaction that will passes through the four different stages: particle rearrangement, elastic, viscoelastic and plastic deformation of particles, fragmentation of particles and the formation of the interparticulate bond. Now, what are the different types of bonds that are observed in case of tablet formation? The bond that is formed, which is said to be the first type of bond, that is the mechanical interlocking bond. You can see this is the interlocking. This yellow portion, it will get interlocked into the blue portion. Blue portion will get interlocked into the red portion. Red portion that will get interlocked into the green portion. Green portion that will get interlocked into the yellow portion. So that is why it is said to be the interlocking, the mechanical interlocking between the irregularly shaped particles. So as a result of subjecting it to that of the phase 3 and phase 4, the irregular particle will get formed, and these irregular particles that are responsible for the process of formation of the mechanical interlocking bonds. The second type of bond, that is the ionic interactions which are going to be occurring, that might be van der Waals forces. So interparticulate attraction force or the forces that will lead to the intermolecular forces such as van der Waals forces and the electrostatic forces, and sometimes these are the hydrogen bonds. Sometimes there is a formation of the solid bridges due to the melting of the some of the particles. As we are going on increasing the pressure, this increase into the pressure that may lead to the melting of the particles, or sometimes the increase into the pressure that will lead to the increase into the temperature, which will lead to the melting of the particles. So the melting of the particle that will lead to the formation of the solid bridges between the particles. So these are the three different ways by which the particle they can form the bond with each other, that is the mechanical interlocking, interparticulate attraction and the solid bridges, which is responsible for the process in order to form the particular shape which is said to be the tablet shape, right? Okay, so volume reduction and the mechanism during the process of compression, that how the volume reduction it will occur and how the process of compression that will occur. The Haeckel equation that will gives. So the Haeckel equation, what does it will explain? It will explain the degree of compact densification with increasing the compression pressure. Yes, right. As we will go on increasing the pressure, there is a reduction into the volume, or there is a compaction process which are going to be occurring, and this is directly proportional to that of the porosity. So the Haeckel's plot, these are helpful to identify the predominant deformation behavior of the material between substances that consolidate by fragmentation. Now, deformation behavior, which kind of deformation behavior? Plastic and the elastic, right? So first is the elastic, second is the plastic. Elastic is the reversible, plastic is the irreversible, right? Okay, that consolidate by fragmentation, which is followed by the fragmentation, and those that consolidate by the plastic deformation. Now, after process of formation of the tablet and through the process of compression, we have to see what are the tablet defects. See, the no process is 100% perfect. Now, in the same way, how the process of tablet formation can escape? Tablet formation, it is also associated with certain faults, errors, and the defects, and these are summarized in the form of the defects. Few of the important defects, these are as shown into this particular slide. So this is said to be the capping, lamination, picking, cracking, mottling, and the double impression. Capping, that is nothing but the crowning. You can see the upper portion or the lower portion that will get removed. Lamination, that is the separation of the tablet into the different layer. Picking, that is removing some portions of the tablet, more especially from the top and from the bottom. Cracking, you can see there is a crack. Mottling, that is the uneven distribution in case of the colored tablets. And double impression, you can see there is a process. If the punches, if the dyes that will get rotated during the process of ejection. At that time it will leads to the double impression, or sometime double compaction, that will leads to the process of double impression. So all these are the defects that are very common in case of the tablet during its production. Now what these are, that we will see in somewhat details. So this is the capping. What the capping is: partial or complete separation of top or bottom crown of a tablet from the main body of the tablet. This is the tablet body and this is the crown. It will get removed. While lamination is what? Lamination is the separation of the tablet into two or more distinct layers. The tablet will get separated into the two more distinct layers. That is the lamination. So what are the causes for this capping and the lamination? The causes or the reasons for this capping and lamination are the air entrapment into the granule. The granule that will contain the air, that will lead to the capping, that is the exertion of the internal pressure into this cap, so that will lead to that of the into this crown, so that it will lead to that of the capping and the lamination. Rapid decompression. During the process of compression, sudden there is a removal of the punches, that will lead to the decompression, rapid decompression. Deep concave punches. You can see particularly it is associated with this. More and more will be the deeper this portion, more and more will be the process of entrapment of the air. So that air must be escaped, but as it is the closer assembly, that is the die and the upper lower punches. So if that will not lead to the process of escape of air, so that air that will exert the pressure from inside onto this crown and onto these layers, that will lead to the capping and the lamination. Use of too dry granulation tends to cap or laminate for lack of cohesion. Some amount of moisture is required, some amount of wetness is required in case of the granules. If the granules are too much dried, that will lead to the capping and lamination. Incorrect setup of the presses. Again, this is important, associated with that of the machinery, that if the machinery that is not properly set, that will lead to the process of capping and the lamination. So what are the remedies? Once we identified the reasons, once we identified the causes, very easily we can go for the remedies. So the remedy, or the how we can avoid this process, how we can treat the capping and lamination. The first is the pre-compression, slowing the rate of tableting or reducing the final compression pressure. Use of flat punches. Then maintenance of the optimum moisture in the processing of the granules, and use of the special durable dyes with the tungsten carbide insert. The tungsten that will not allow to stick, or that will not allow the process of capping and the lamination. So you can see all these remedies, these are based on the causes, right? So that's why these remedies can remove the process of capping and the lamination. The second tablet defect, that is the picking and the sticking. The picking process that will occur at its top or at its bottom. This is because of what? This is because of the punches. The picking that is associated with the punches and the sticking that is associated with the die. This is the difference. Note that picking it is associated with what? Picking it is associated with the punches, and the sticking that is associated with what? It is associated with the inner diameter or the inner wall of the dies. So picking the surface material from a tablet that is sticking to the punch and being removed from the tablet surfacing, that is said to be the picking. Sticking, it refers to a tablet material adhering to the die wall. So that is the basic difference. Picking that is associated with the punches, sticking that is associated with the die wall. What are the causes for the process of picking and sticking? The adhesion of the material to the punch faces. Very correct. The punch faces, they will get stick to the tablet material or the granules, and when the process of ejection that will occur, when the upper punch that will move into the upward direction, at that time that will lead to the process of taking away some portion of the tablet surface, that is the picking. Overweighting of the tablets and under drying or poor tablet quality. Either we can go for overweighting or under drying of the tablet, that will lead to the process of picking, because that will contain moisture, that because of that moisture it is sticking to that of the punches, which leads to the picking and the sticking. Tablet material sticking to the punch tips with engraving and the embossing. Most of the tablet they will be containing the names. Most of the tablet they will contain the different shapes onto their surface. So that is because of the engraving. That is because of the embossing. So the region between these embossing, the region between these engraving, that will lead to the process of sticking. So here you can see there is a difference between the punch and the tablet surface. This is the punch, that is the punch face affected by the sticking. Here the surface of the tablet or the material of the tablet, that will get stick to that of the punch surface. And here this is the uh, what to say, the surface of the tablet, this particular portion that will get removed and that will get stick to this punch. So the portion will get removed by the punch. Tablet face affected by the sticking because of this punch, because of the process of sticking, the surface that will get affected. What are the remedies in case of the picking and the sticking? Use of large lettering on punches with small diameters. So use of large lettering or punches with small diameter, that will lead to the picking sticking. Reformulation of the tablet to large size. The plating of the punch surface with the chromium. If we coat the punch surface with the help of the chromium, that will not allow the process of picking and sticking. Addition of the colloidal silica to the granules. The colloidal silicate will act as a polishing agent, so which will avoid the process of picking and sticking. Use of more or new binder to increase the cohesiveness of tablets. Addition of more high melting point lubricants, reduction into the low melting point lubricant. So all these are the remedies by which we can avoid the process of picking and sticking. Mottling. Mottling is another kind of tablet defect. It is an uneven distribution of colors on a tablet with light and dark areas on the tablet surface. As I said that it is the uneven distribution of the colors on this tablet surface with the light and dark areas onto the tablet surface. These are because of what? What are the reason for the causes? The use of drug whose color differs from the tablet excipients, the use of drug whose dehydration product are colored one, and migration of the dyes to the surface of the granulation during the process of drying. So all these three different reasons that will causes the process of mottling. What are these? The use of drug whose color that will differ from the tablet excipient, the color which we had added into the tablet excipients, and the color which we are using for the process of coloring of the tablet during the process of coating. If these are different, that will lead to the mottling. Use of drug whose dehydration product are colored. If we are going to be removing the color, if you are allowing the process to dry it and remove the water, in that case, during presence of water and during removal of water, if the change into the color, so that will lead to the mottling. And third reason is this: sometimes there is a migration of the dyes to the surface of the granulation during the drying process. Now, once all these are the causes, what will be the remedy? Changing the solvent system. Instead of using a particular solvent, if it is alcoholic, we should go for changing it. Either we can change the solvent or we can change the complete system. Instead of using organic, we may go for aqueous one, or if it is earlier aqueous one, why don't we should try with the organic one? Reduction of drying temperature. Yes, the larger increase into the temperature, that will lead to the process of change into the color because of the complete removal of the moisture, and dispersing a color, dry color additive during the powder binding steps. Weight variation. Variation of tablet weight beyond the acceptable limit. The IP that will specifies, or there are certain range of the variation into the tablet weight which is acceptable. But if it is beyond this, then it is not acceptable. So again, that is the tablet defect. So weight variation, that is the variation of the tablet weight beyond the acceptable limit. So in order to avoid this, we should continuously go for the in-process QC control test. We should continuously monitor the weight of the tablet. Sometime during the process of compression, sometime during the process of tableting itself, because of the vibration and all, the set measurements that were subject to that of the change, and that will change will lead to that of the affecting the weight of the tablet. So in order to avoid that, we should take the proper care. What are the causes? The non-uniform granule size and the size distribution. There is a need to have the uniform granule size. That's why we always used to go for the process of sieving after the process of drying. So the sieving that will lead to that of the tablets of the uniform size by retaining the granules onto the sieve surface. And size distribution. We want the distribution of proper size. They should be properly rounded one, right? So they should not have the irregular shaped granules. So that will lead to that of the wet variation. Because the intermolecular or because the intergranular spaces that will affect overall this wet variation. The poor flow through the feed frame. There is a need to maintain the proper flow system from feed frame to that of the die walls. If it is too much, then there is a complete filling or overfilling. If it is too much slow, there may be underfilling. So this overfilling and the underfilling of the dies that will lead to that of the process of wet variation. Punch variation, the size of the punches, the surface of the punches if it is damaged, or the pressure which is exerted by the punches. So that will lead to the weight variation into the tablet. The poor design of the granulation hopper. So again, which will lead to that of the improper flow of granules from hopper to that of the die cavity. Poor mixing. If the mixing that is not occurring completely, that is not occurring properly, the weight variation that will be subjected. So what are the remedies for this? The remedies are addition of increase of a glidant material like say the talcum, colloidal silica, use of the vibrators attached to the hopper that will be subjected to that of the complete tapping. So that will lead to the process of continuous flow of material or the granules from hopper to that of the die wall. Use of well-designed hopper, the proper shape that will be subjected to that of the R&D. So through the research and development, the shape that can be modified. It should be conical or it should be vertical, likewise, in order to ensure the complete filling of the die cavities. Double impression. So this is the again last defect in case of the tablet manufacturing. So faulty engraving by the punches with monogram or engraving that will lead to that of the double impression. The cause is slight rotation of the punches after the pre-compression. The tablet that is getting formed by exerting pressure between the upper and lower punches. So during the process of ejection, during the process of releasing the pressure, what will happen? This punch that will passes through the cam, and that cam that may leads to that of the rotation of the punches if the punches size that is a rounded one, right? So that rotation that will lead to that of the process of the double impression. But as such, if you see in case of double rotation and sorry, in case of rounded punches, the impression that can be or the embossing or the engraving that is only from the one side, that is not from the two side. So that will lead to the process of the double impression. Now what would be the remedy to this? Again, to take the not to avoid the process of rotation of the punches or to take the punches of specific shape, right?